You just pay the guy basically directly with these tiny transaction fees. And there's all kinds of startup ideas, all kinds of crazy smart contracts that people are coming up with now all over the world. And it's really interesting. Another one's called Augur, which I think is really interesting, is prediction markets. So you can bet on if Trump's going to win the election. God, I hope not, but you can bet on those. You bet on these real world events, right? And we have that now. You can go to a company and say, "Yeah, I bet Trump's going to win," and then they pay you. And they also get to tap into the power of the knowledge of the crowd, because the more people there are that all bet on something, on average, people are correct en masse. But at the moment, you're trusting these central authorities that they're the oracle and they're going to give you your money back and they're going to be they're trustworthy. In this case, you don't need to trust them anymore. You kind of just need to trust the Ethereum network, and the Ethereum network is run by Mats. So, and that's it. Any questions? Yeah, we've got a few hands there. Yeah, we'll start in the front. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that was great. First of all, so awesome to have someone like yourself, PhD, coming around here and telling us what it's really all about.
My pleasure.
Question is, there's a lot of talk about how there's a law of thermodynamics, right? Mm-hmm. Where is this a perpetual motion machine? And what are your thoughts about that? Do you know what I'm getting at?
The law of thermodynamics being perpetual.
Yeah, so the computational power that it takes, eventually similar to Bitcoin, how
well, as having done a degree in physics, there is no perpetual motion. I don't know what you're getting at there.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so currently the transaction time is for Bitcoin is about 10 minutes, and so what's Ethereum, about 17 seconds?
It's about 17 seconds.
Yeah. What's stopping that from becoming similar to like Bitcoin?
The protocol itself is self-adjusting.
Okay.
So there's a thing called difficulty. So all these miners, they're all trying to find a hash, right? And they've just got to randomly do all these computations and hope the correct one pops out. How likely it is for that correct one to pop out is adjustable. And the algorithm adjusts itself, makes it harder to get that out. If the block time starts getting really, really short, right, the algorithm goes, no, I want to take longer for block, so it makes it harder, and the algorithm gets longer.
It's also as Ethereum's going to end up moving to like proof of stake. So that's like kind of the big thing that I don't want to get super in depth here, but like Bitcoin's working on proof of work, whereas you get people mining. Whereas if you want to actually get really fast and really quick, you actually want to be want to do crazy shit with the decentralized stuff. You want to start looking at proof of stake. So there's been a few alt currencies out there doing some good stuff with that, but that's on the roadmap at least.
Yeah, and that's a few years away. So
proof of work about a year, but you never know. Like a developer's year is.
Got to get the money first. Come on. We know we're consultants.
Yeah, Bitcoin it takes a lot of power and like actual electricity to mine these things, and the reason that is it's basically a game theoretic reason. You can only vote on one chain because you can only put your resources into one. Proof of stake you can kind of vote on many, but the actual way that it works is a hell of a lot more complicated, and we're a long way from that in my opinion. But that'll bring it faster. There's also one more thing. I forgot I had 2 more slides here. When you want to buy this stuff, right? You hear about this Ethereum and all this sort of stuff. This is Poloniex. It's an American exchange, and this is what I've been trading on. This is the price of Ether since it was released on here. You can see in the last couple of months, it's just gone absolutely mental. I think it's going to go way more mental. We got Combang, Westpac, and all kinds of bank consortiums looking at this stuff. That one you got to sign up and do all your know your customer verification checks, but it's a real market. It's got a lot of liquidity and stuff. That's good. This one, Shapeshift, is the one that missed. The Ethereum client will use. You'll be able to use the Ethereum client when it comes out on Monday, and you'll be able to put a Bitcoin in there, and then this guy will convert it straight to Ether for you. These guys are Swiss, right? So they're not going to ask any questions. Yep.
So what's the valuation of
an Ether? So one Ether right now is about $16 Australian.
That's the price. What's the
What's
value?
the value? So that's an interesting question. Right? Well, so Ether, this currency that the system is, you use Ether to execute contracts. If you want to interact with the contract that's published there, the miners charge you for that. So every sort of basic unit of computation costs a certain amount of Ether, right? So the value of it is basically how much computation can I run for one Ether, and it's actually a huge amount. If one Ether could run millions and millions of contracts, and in my opinion, it's going to take one big app to come out right? It's like Slockit or something, and everyone's going to want this stuff. And when the computation starts to get significant, yeah, the actual value. At the moment, it's all speculation.
What about the government then? The government's going to kick in.
What about the government? Those bastards. What about the government? What are they going to do? As long as you have two computers talking to each other, you have a blockchain. The only way to shut down a blockchain is shut down the internet.
Like Napster, you know? It's file sharing.
But Napster was
same thing.
true. But Napster was designed to break a law, right? Ethereum is designed to achieve something. There's no laws broken here. Yes, I can use Tor to sell drugs, right? I could probably do. They're probably going to build Silk Road on this, right? You'll probably be able to buy drugs on Ethereum in the not too distant future. Does that mean you shut down Tor? maybe. We'll see. But if are you going to shut down this whole technology just because there's one illegal use?
Pretty sure you can buy drugs with cash.
But it's dangerous and you get crappy stuff, right? On Silk Road, it's like eBay. The guy says you shit drugs, you give him a shit review, he's lost his business. You get much better stuff.
Decentralized reputation.
Decentralized reputation, exactly.
But then can go back to the blockchain and check it.
Yeah, exactly. They can say, well, did he send shitty drugs? Yeah, he did. Oh, I'm not buying off him. Yep.
So the mere publishing of a code, the post someone interacting with that code or contracting, putting out a contract.
Yep.
That publishing, so it's not the publishing side of things, it's the interaction with the code that locks it in. Is that correct?
No, when you publish the code, it's locked into the blockchain.
Okay. So
right?
what's the authentication process on that? Because it's interesting that, and that said, the further away that transaction, that publishing, that code, publishing that code dissipates into time, the more entrenched it is in the blockchain.
Yes, technically.
Okay. So you see that really at the cold phase is where
There's some validity there. Volatility.
And validation and corruption as well.
Yeah, so if
you can have a corrupted system,
Yep.
and I'm not a blockchain
Yep.
expert by far.
yes,
But that once it's entrenched and is built over,
basically,
then history, because by the sounds of this system is based on history-related occurrences, will lock that in as part of the ecosystem.
exactly right. And that's the same with Bitcoin, right? When you transfer Bitcoin, you don't wait till one block's been solved, because it's true that two people could solve a block at the same time, right? Because you got this big peer-to-peer network, there's delays in communicating across that network. It's possible you can solve two blocks at the same time, right? And your transaction might only be in this one, right? And then the network, and you go, oh yeah, I'll go to that block, I've got the money, no worries, here's my car, right? But then the network didn't see this one in time, and the network started growing off this one. That's called a fork. And that's why you don't trust that a transaction has gone through until you see about 5 blocks go past in Bitcoin.
So that's a check.
Yeah. So you just wait. You don't trust that something is in the blockchain until you've seen it get down at least 5 or so blocks.
Where did you come up with 5?
That is what the Bitcoin core client requires. Now, different clients will require different numbers of blocks. So in Ethereum, that Poloniex exchange, these guys wait for 360 blocks before they actually believe that you get the money.
Okay, and that's set out widely. That's available. That information.
Well, these guys just choose 360 as their sort of level. The Bitcoin client chooses 5 or 6 as its level. Litecoin chooses another one. Depends on how fast the blocks are, how mature the network is. Right, the network power for Bitcoin is much stronger than the network power for Ethereum. So you might have to wait less blocks for this one.
And from, I'm sorry, Matt,
That's all right.
And just hearing from your presentation, there's a reliance on the tangible fiat side of things to fuse into the blockchain side. You're reliant on the physical tangibility of the current currency system. Is that correct?
Well, it's totally independent, but in order to buy it, yes, right? These things are humans place value on these things, so in order to buy it, yes, you have to translate. You're next. This guy, you have a question.
Me?
Yep. Did you?
Yep.
No, I do.
So, at the end of the day, there has to be some computer or some miner or whatever you call it running the code that is the contract.
Yep.
How can you be sure that they are not malicious and that they haven't themselves tampered with what they're doing?
Yep. So, in order for a block to be accepted, right, other people have to start to use that block as the previous block, right? So if I'm a malicious actor and I can tamper with it here, right, and I publish that block, the other miners are all going to also run that code and go, no, that's not the result I got, and they're just going to reject it.
Okay, so the code is run by like almost everyone.
The code is run by everyone. For you to catch up with the blockchain, you have to run all code, right? Which is very slow, right? This is not a speed machine. This is not distributed computing, right? Well, in this, it is, but it's not splitting the task up into lots of little bits. Every little bit is all running the same task.
How does that scale?
Well, it's scaling. It's slow, right? Running code in there is not fast, but it's not trying to be fast. It's trying to achieve something different.
It's the speed of a smartphone from 1999, isn't it? That's what they say.
Speed of a smartphone from 99. It's really slow. It works. Yeah, person right at the back there. Yep.
Yes, hi. So recently there was a proof of concept that IBM and Samsung using Ethereum for IoT application. Can you comment on this, on IoT, and what do you think about it?
Yeah, so a lot of people like that Slockit, right? That Slockit app is basically IoT, right? The thing is a lock, and it's listening to the blockchain. Right, so yeah, lots of people are looking for IoT, Internet of Things, for people who hate all these bloody acronyms, right? And that is, there's a lot of like talk around that space. Slockit's the sort of first big example of someone doing that. But yeah, I think there's going to be some interesting applications coming out there. Yeah, let's go.
Hey, where are you finding all the different applications? Are you just looking at blockchain, looking at
No, it's very hard to actually see the applications out of the blockchain because source code is compiled on there. But there's a thing called State of the dApps. You can Google that. It's literally a spreadsheet, or it used to be a spreadsheet of different ones. Just things I hear about through the news.
And the last question was
Mist, yeah. Mist, so that's a good point.
Say that.
Yeah, I should say that. So Mist is the graphical client that's coming out on, the Monday is its big release. The Pi Day, Monday, is a big release for Ethereum. It's marks a new thing, and coinciding with that is the graphical client. Mist is an app store for Ethereum.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so that comes out on Monday.
Okay, awesome. And then the second question was, the code has to be stateless because every single computer is going to be running the exact same one. Is that?
The code is stateless, yes, but it has storage associated with it.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I think you go first.
Can you update the core of the Bitcoin?
Sorry?
The code, can it be updated?
It can be updated. It needs the majority of the network to update in order to do that. And that's actually something, this thing, a fork on Monday, is actually a hard fork where they're going to change the code so it's not backward compatible. If more than half the miners haven't updated their code by that time, the network can't fork. Right? So you're actually relying on the miners to update their code, and if they don't, you can't. So I've already updated all mine, so it's all good. Yeah, I think you're first.
Funding the contract, when you want to run a DApp and you put it onto the blockchain of Ethereum.
Yeah, so sorry, a DApp is a distributed app.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you need to fund it, I imagine. So you've got to pay a fee or that's the gas or whatever. Is that a one-off thing, or do you have to keep feeding it? As long as you want to
If the contract requires a balance to operate, then yes, you need to give it an initial balance. But no, a contract doesn't need it. The person who interacts with the contract, the transaction you send to the contract in order to interact with it, that transaction contains what's effectively a transaction fee, which is the gas.
Okay, so does that mean it will continue to run ad infinitum then, once you fund it at once?
No, because if it runs, and this is basically why the concept of gas exists, so I can't DOS the network by giving it an infinite loop. Because infinite loop will run out of gas, and then it'll stop. So you just run out. Yep.
How do you manage inflation? You say like now that Bitcoin is the Ether is like around $10.
Yep.
US dollars.
Yep.
And if all these like other companies like Slockit or whatever kick in, and it will be maybe higher. So that means that my fee, transaction fee, would be higher.
Cool.
Like because it's like now it's like several ways. Is it called ways? The
Correct.
part
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Ether,
good.
right?
Yeah.
So if that price like spikes, then my transaction fee would be higher.
That's true. I mean,
how do you manage that?
First of all, the transaction fee is so right now is insanely small. It's like
but
10 to the minus $10 or something.
yeah, but Bitcoin was
Right.
insanely small into
That is true. So basically, it's up to the miners. The miners. So when you publish a transaction, you say this is the amount of gas. This is the fee I'm willing to pay, right? and the miner can then choose whether to accept that or not. If it gets insanely expensive, people will have the option then of paying less as a transaction fee, and the miners will go, well, it's worth so much, that's fine. So it's self-adjusting.
Yeah, that's pretty much market economy. But what I'm trying to ask is, if we have so many apps on the Ethereum,
Yep.
what happens? We have so much demand
Yep.
for the Ether, so it's going to be too expensive to maybe run. And would the Ethereum to run? So will you like pump it with more coins, or?
Well, you can't necessarily pump it with more coins. The coins you can't create more.
Oh,
They're,
the miners have to create them.
well, the miners create them in a way, but they create them according to a set schedule. They can't choose to create more. But you're right. If the price goes absolutely insane, the miners will be happy to accept lower, like smaller transaction fees as measured in Ether, because they'll still be worth the same in dollars.
Okay, but there is no cap like in Bitcoin. There is no like 21 million Bitcoin.
Yeah, so Bitcoin thing halves, so it gets to 21 million. Ether doesn't. It just keeps going. Yeah. Go on. Yeah.
Oh, so you mentioned a Turing complete programming language.
Yep.
Is there any opportunity for interaction with external data or services? There's mention of random oracle. Or...
That's a problem.
Yep.
Because, like the president's election.
Yeah, understandably,
right?
yeah.
Typically what they do is they build an oracle into the smart contracts protocol.
Okay.
Right? So that you might have trusted users with a reputation system to get external stuff.
Oh, okay, so interaction with other
there are some, in future versions of Ethereum, they're actually going to build in those sorts of APIs so that the miners will be able to call, for example, looking up to Bitcoin blockchain, right? You'll actually be able to run a piece of code that will look up something in Bitcoin. And that's scheduled for future
akin to like sidechain or something.
Yeah.
So it seems to me if you publish a contract and then you later realise it's got a bug or it's got an unintended loophole,
you've
got a big problem. And I was kind of worrying two prongs. First one, which I think you kind of answered, is other options for revocation or alteration.
Yep.
I think. The other one is to what extent have kind of static verification tools impacted the various Ethereum languages, and maybe that's worth another talk.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure at the second question. It's new stuff, so there's not a lot of tools yet. We're definitely working on that. I mean, the compile is still under. I mean, this is very experimental. It was released in July, right? So it's all brand new. And yeah, as for the first one, you build in your revocation into your contract, and they actually just introduced a new opcode which allows that to be a lot easier. I think you're first.
Just on that point, actually, because the language is Turing complete, it suffers from a halting problem, which means that when you look at a piece of code, which could be arbitrary, you could put whatever you want in there. You don't know how long it will take to complete. So how does Ethereum deal with programs that could potentially take a very long time to run?
It costs the person who run it a lot of money.
So the actual program has a per execution.
Per execution, each type of execution, each opcode costs a certain amount of weight or gas, right? So if you write something and it just takes forever to run, everyone's going to run it, right? But they're all going to get, the miners are going to get paid for it. Actually, they're going to love to run your contract because they're going to get a bloody hell of a lot of money out of it. So that's it. You lose your money if you run something like that. That's actually exactly why the concept of, that's exactly why you use Ether to run contracts. I think you first? Okay, you go ahead.
A question about, I read like keeping in value in cold storage. I just wonder what that practically entails. Taking off the exchange so you don't have like a Mt. Gox
problem. Yeah, so Mt. Gox, people lose money because they keep their money in there. Effectively, those guys, Mt. Gox or Poloniex, are holding your money for you so you can trade it. And that just means pulling it offline and putting it in your own offline wallet. I would call that, I wouldn't call that cold storage. Cold storage usually means getting your wallet, printing it onto a piece of paper and locking that piece of paper in a safe. Right? That address, that private key is not on the internet. It's not connected to any computer that is on the internet. Can't hack it, can't hack paper. That's what cold storage is. Thanks. Yep.
So Bitcoin has this block size problem, potential block size problem. I just wonder if there's something similar in Ethereum where you can have an infinite number of programs ultimately on the blockchain and tons of people interacting with these programs. At what point does congestion kick in?
That's a good question. I don't know if Ethereum actually has a block size limit. I suspect it doesn't.
No.
No,
it adjusts.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's got a built-in adjusting protocol. So if stuff starts to get crazy, it just sort of lifts the lid on it.
And there's a lot of stuff with like sharding and like proof of stake and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like they've learned from Bitcoin's problems, and
which is one of the awesome things. So Bitcoin, this guy sort of made it as the first thing, published it, and now it's just sort of there, and you can't. It's very, very, very difficult to change, right? As you research and as that's come to existence, we've had all kinds of implementation problems, or not necessarily implementation, but conceptual problems with Bitcoin, and there's very little we can do about those. Right? Ethereum is very different. This guy sort of come up with this idea and said, like, let's do this. They formed a foundation. They said, this is what we're doing. All the other nerds are totally frothing over it. So they're like, we want to work for you. So they got to hire all these ultra smart geeks. They all came together and they're not just going, go, right? They've gone, here's our first beta release. But right now, that Ethereum Foundation has full control of the network. If they wanted to wipe it out tomorrow, they could. I mean, it wouldn't make much sense to them to do that. But they're basically going through these release cycles where they publish it, see how it runs, pay heaps of researchers to see what's going on, and then start learning from their mistakes. This Homestead release that's happening on Monday is basically a bunch of the mistakes that they've learned that they can now update, right? And there's a few stages throughout the life cycle of Ethereum where they have the opportunity to update the code really easily to solve a lot of those problems in Bitcoin.
I was
Yep.
just wanted to know, at what price would you tell your mum to buy Ethereum?
Yep, I told my mum to buy Ethereum and she bought it, so it's now at 0.02 bitcoins, 26 bitcoins.
2.5. Yeah, it's pushing 2.3.
Yeah, about
it's pushing 3.
Yeah,
2.0475.
Yeah, there we go. So I say about 250 at the moment, and she bought in at about 100. So she's more than doubled her money now, and I've got a lot more than double my money because we started mining blocks. I think we get 50,000 blocks.
First release.
Yeah, we mined blocks within the first couple of hours, so we got lots of blocks. Yep.
So one of the big issues with Bitcoin, in my opinion, is the politics behind it has really stifled its growth. What's to stop that happening here with Ethereum and the Ethereum Foundation?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Self-adjusting,
Politics, we're humans, and we are inventing technologies. There is no escaping politics. One of the mitigating factors of that is Bitcoin has had a core team of 5 developers who got handed something from some other guy, and they all bickering. Ethereum Foundation started from the beginning, this is what they're doing, and they're much, much bigger. They have offices, they've got a huge dev office in Germany, they've got dev offices all over the world. They're quite a big, consistent company. Of course they have politics, everyone has politics, but at least in a big company you kind of keep on top of the politics, and it's kind of a bit more transparent.
Is it open source?
Absolutely, very. Everything about Ethereum is open source. Yep.
Just with respect to the R3 CDV
Yeah.
group of banks that
Yep.
have just recently been doing some experiments with, I believe, Ripple or Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Correct.
That was on the public network, right? So does that mean that everyone can then go and have a look at the structure of
If
the
you
contracts that
know
they
what
use?
their address is,
Yeah.
and you know what they've done, absolutely, you definitely know it's public, right? You can do encryption and all kinds of stuff like that, but generally things are just like Bitcoin, it's public. All right. Any more questions? No? Awesome.
One more.
Okay,
Sorry. One more. So something like Uber, right? You were saying use case for it. So 17 seconds is pretty fine if you're using Ether to book an Uber and have that transaction delay.
Yeah.
But what happens if it does get a little bit longer?
Yeah, so 17 seconds is the average block time. I mean, I've seen blocks go for 2 minutes plus, right? You don't want to sit there 2 minutes, like, oh, come on, where's my cab? I haven't even requested my cab yet. How they do that is that slocket, every time you actually unlock that lock, it doesn't put a transaction to the blockchain. You put a transaction to the blockchain saying, I want to rent this, it now agrees that you have access. From that point on, you just interact directly with it. There is no blockchain interaction. And then when you close it, it registers that yours is no longer valid.
So someone takes on the insurance pretty much almost.
Yeah. Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, one more.
How would the Uber driver be paid?
It would in Ether, I guess.
So he would cash that out.
Yeah. So there could be some transparent thing like these exchanges to then.
And then change it to
Did you have another question? No. Okay.
If-
All good.
If I can say one thing, sorry. We're talking about decentralized Uber and all of that. There's already a firm out there that's launching a DAO called Arcade City, They're there to try and replace Uber on the Ethereum network. They haven't launched anything yet, but I don't know, it's still pretty cool what they're doing.
It's time to launch stuff because it's still all these Homestead releases.
Exactly.
This is all brand new. Like the Genesis block was in July, so it's 6 months old.
Yeah.
It's very young for a technology like this.
But yeah, it's awesome. Everyone's out there trying to I was about to say decentralize, disrupt, destroy all the current incumbents. So yeah, come up with an idea and fucking own it.
Yeah. Dematerialize.
Yeah, dematerialize.
Okay.